short video on squat depth.
And some pretty cool positions or things to keep an eye on when you're squatting in terms of how to be in the proper positions and kind of torso shin angles we'll talk a little bit about. So number one thing to kind of consider here is everybody's squat's different. So Tracy's squat looks vastly different than what mine does. Mine will look different from yours. Like everybody's squat's different based on a number of factors: femur length, hip anatomy, the angles, mobility, the angles in which your femurs come out of your hips. Like that all comes into play here. So no one cue can help everybody squat perfectly because everybody's squat is different. So that's a key thing to keep in mind here. So number one thing we do want to talk about is depth is determined by positions. So everybody's like, oh, you gotta either squat to 90 or ass to grass or whatever it is, but those are only if you can maintain certain positions in the squat. So the key part of that is making sure shin and torso angles line up. So they should be parallel with each other when you're at the bottom of your squat. So making sure that we're not in a position where you're tipping forward, shins are still rather vertical. That's where we start to get some of those excess loads on that low back of the lumbar spine. So we want to make sure that we're dispersing our forces appropriately to the musculature and not to the joints, low back, knees, that kind of stuff. So if you squat appropriately, it can be very safe. All right, so let's have Trace grab a kettlebell behind her here, and we're really going to kind of have her do a good sideways view here, so you guys get a look at what what we're actually looking at here. So she's going to squat down to the bottom and hold that. All right, so we're looking at shin angle right here, line up with her torso. So that's extremely important. You want to make sure that it raises those hips and lean forward a little bit, that we're not in this position where these two lines are not parallel anymore. All right, so when we end up in that position, that low back is really exposed to some real good, or risk for injury, I should say. Go ahead and stand up. So then you want to make sure that those are lined up so we have things dispersed appropriately. So we actually get some good glute activation, those quads start working, your knees aren't taking a lot of load, your low back's not taking a lot of load, and it keeps you as safe as possible while you're squatting.
Keep in mind that each load is different, depending on your back squat, if you front squat, if you goblet squat. Even if you use a TRX, suspension trainer, you will squat differently. And so some people have their feet wide and turned out depending on their body, how it functions and things like that. So don't just think you have to get parallel or, like you said, ass to grass.
Yep.